Who Saif al Islam Gaddafi was, from Heir to Contender. Saif al Islam Gaddafi was the second-born son of longtime Libyan ruler Muammar al-Gaddafi, a man who led Libya for more than 4 decades after a 1969 coup that overthrew the monarchy. Saif was born in Tripoli in 1972 and educated in Western institutions, including the London School of Economics, where he cultivated an image of a Western-friendly, reformist intellectual, a contrast to his father's revolutionary and often controversial style. During his father's rule, he was widely seen as the heir apparent, the son most likely to carry forward Libya's leadership, blending Gaddafi's populist style with a more diplomatic face. He held no official government post, but was considered a central figure in foreign relations and policy, helping negotiate compensation for victims of international incidents involving Libya and advocating diplomatic engagement with the West. Despite this image, Saif also played a direct role in the repression of the 2011 uprising against his father's regime, actions that led to an ICC arrest warrant for crimes against humanity, and, in 2015, a Libyan death sentence in absentia for his role in suppressing protests. From captivity to political ambition. After the Gaddafi regime fell in 2011 during the Arab Spring-linked Libyan civil war, Saif tried to flee toward neighboring Niger but was captured by a militia on the road and flown to Zintan in northwest Libya. He spent years in militia custody before being released in 2017 under an amnesty deal amid Libya's fragmented political landscape. Since then, he lived in Zintan and, despite his conviction and ICC warrant, re-emerged as a political figure, announcing his intention to run for the presidency in 2021, a bid that became a flashpoint in Libya's endless political deadlock and was eventually disqualified. His candidacy was controversial. To supporters, he was a symbol of Libya's past strength and stability. To opponents, he was a reminder of dictatorship and violence. Ultimately, Libya's electoral process collapsed, and the country remained divided between rival governments in the West and East. The assassination, what happened? On 3 February 2026, Saif al Islam Gaddafi was shot dead by 4 masked gunmen who stormed his home in Zintan, allegedly disabling security cameras before the attack. Officials described the killing as a cowardly and treacherous assassination, with direct confrontation between Saif and the attackers before he was fatally shot. Libyan prosecutors have launched an investigation, but detailed motives and suspects remain unclear. Some contextual signals suggest the killing may involve local armed factions, national political rivalries, or international interests converging on Libya's future direction. Why he might have been targeted. Multiple layers. 1. Internal political threat. Saif was unique in post-2011 Libya as a figure who could have united supporters of the old regime, traditional tribal networks, and conservative elements tired of militia rule, making him a wild-card threat to rival factions determined to maintain the status quo. His presidential ambitions symbolized an alternative political path that could have undermined existing power blocks. 2. Militia and factional competition. Libya has been fragmented since 2011, with competing administrations based in Tripoli and in the east, and powerful militia networks now entrenched in local governance. A charismatic figure like Saif al-Islam threatened those entrenched interests, especially if he became a focal point for uniting factions under a single national banner. 3. Accountability and old scores. Saif's legacy is contentious. While some viewed him as reformist, many Libyans remembered his role in the brutal 2011 crackdown, for which he remains wanted by the ICC and was sentenced to death domestically. Opponents might have seen his return to prominence as a resurgence of an era they believed must not return. 4. International geopolitics. Though hard facts remain murky, some commentators allege that Western intelligence and regional powers have long opposed anything resembling a Gaddafi return, partly because Muammar Gaddafi himself championed Pan-African economic integration projects, including a proposed Pan-African gold currency that challenged Western financial influence in Africa. While such theories are debated and not fully substantiated by mainstream sources, they speak to how Saif's potential revival was perceived by different actors, both domestic and foreign. What the assassination means for Pan-Africanism today. Pan-Africanism at its core is a political and cultural movement seeking unity, self-determination, and economic independence for African nations. Historically, Gaddafi was one of the most outspoken proponents of Pan-African economic integration, funding unions of African leaders, proposing a unified African currency, and seeking to redirect Libyan oil wealth into continental development. Even critics acknowledge his backing for some African initiatives before 2011. Saif al Islam, by inheritance and association, carried some symbolic weight in that legacy. To segments of Pan-African movements, his presence represented a chance, however flawed, to challenge external control over African resources and political autonomy. His death removes a symbolic focal point for a certain strain of African nationalism that looked to pre-2011 Libya as a model of Pan-African financial leadership. Whether one agrees with his politics or not, Saif's assassination removes a figure who could mobilize those sentiments politically, perpetuating skepticism that Africa can defy Western influence or build truly sovereign political and economic institutions. The darker side: fragmentation, foreign influence, and legacy. Libya's power vacuum. Libya has been in a cycle of instability since 2011. Winner-take-all politics combined with decentralized militia power has produced a political vacuum that no strong figure has yet filled. With Saif gone, the vacuum deepens, making Libya's internal conflict harder to resolve. Revenge politics. The assassination could fuel cycles of violence. It risks provoking retaliation from Saif's supporters, potentially dragging Libya further into militia warfare, a dynamic grotesquely familiar in post-Gaddafi Libya. Foreign meddling. Libya has been a battleground of foreign influence, from former colonial powers to Russia and regional players. Saif's international contacts and symbolic position made him complex to various external agendas. While there is no verified proof tying his assassination to foreign intelligence, accusations and suspicions echo across social narratives, reflecting deep mistrust toward interference in African sovereign affairs. The ideological legacy. Saif's life embodied contradiction: Western education, yet participation in repression; reformist rhetoric, yet loyalty to an authoritarian system; international negotiation, and domestic violence. His death underscores how personal legacy and national future remain intertwined in Libya and beyond. Implications for Pan-Africanism today. Saif al Islam Gaddafi's death is more than a Libyan story. It touches on wider continental questions. 1. Unity versus fragmentation. Pan-Africanism requires political coherence. Libya's divisions are symbolic of wider challenges across Africa. 2. Sovereignty versus influence. The struggle to define Africa's political and economic direction remains contested internally and externally. 3. Legacy and narrative. Figures like Muammar Gaddafi and his son are contested symbols. Their deaths change how movements frame leadership and autonomy. The assassination reinforces the fragile nature of political leadership in Africa's transitional states. It is a stark reminder that legacies of authoritarian rule and colonial intervention continue to shape the region's political terrain. Conclusion: a turning point or a continuation? Saif al Islam Gaddafi's assassination is both a significant moment in Libya's history and a symbolic event for political movements across Africa. It removes a polarizing figure who, despite his flaws and crimes, represented for some a potential path, however controversial, toward political consolidation and Pan-African economic assertiveness. It opens space for new questions. Can Libya move beyond factional and tribal divisions? Will Pan-African economic and political ideas find new champions? Or does his death signal a deeper entrenchment of fragmentation and foreign influence? The answers will shape not just Libya, but broader discussions of sovereignty and unity across Africa.